we are moving on to this story about Don Lemon. This is going to be a rather quick one. If you have not heard, Don Lemon has come under fire again. I know some of you are like, how many times is this going to happen to Don Lemon? This time it is in reference to some remarks that he made about women being in their prime. So let's get a hold of this one. I have two clips I want to show you. Here's the first one from Sky News.
Well, it looks like Don Lemon's own co-workers have a problem with him. The CNN anchor has been in hot water this week after he spoke about Nikki Haley, the latest Republican to announce a run for the presidency. He made reference to her age, saying that she wasn't in her prime.
Politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. Sorry. When a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
What are you talking? Wait.
That's not according to me.
Prime for what?
It depends. I mean, it's just like prime. If you look it up, if you Google when is a woman in her prime, it'll say 20s, 30s, and 40s.
Let's go back to it. So that's the statement that put him in hot water. And obviously, you know, he was criticizing Nikki Haley there about her announcement to run for president. So Don Lemon is saying that she's not in her prime. But at the same time, you can't even run for president until you're 35 years old. So that's very strange. Now, I think there are other things to criticize Nikki Haley about other than her not being in her prime, so to speak. So let's play that one more time.
Politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. Sorry. When a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
What are you talking?
So he's saying a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s, maybe her 40s. That kind of sounds like he's talking about childbearing age. It just seems like that's what he's leaning towards. But I would ask, like, prime for what? In your prime to do what? In your prime to have kids? In your prime to run for office? So Nikki Haley's in her 50s. So technically, in reference to politics, she is in her prime. You know, it was the statement there, like women aren't in their, she's not in her prime. Women are supposed to be like, what? To run for office? Since when? And I want to tell you about the political divide here with this as well. Red team, blue team, right? So he's willing to make that statement about Nikki Haley, which I think the statement is ridiculous anyway. I guess Don Lemon doesn't think women should do stuff unless they're in their prime. Anyway, he's willing to make that statement about Nikki Haley, but Hillary Clinton was older than Nikki Haley when she ran for president. He didn't make that statement about Hillary Clinton, but again, she's running through the Democratic Party. So you see how this works? Red team, blue team. See how that works? Let's go on with the video.
Wait.
That's not according to me.
Prime for what?
It depends. I mean, it's just like prime. If you look it up, if you Google when is a woman in her prime, it'll say 20s, 30s, and 40s.
And he says this with two women sitting right here at the table with him. Yikes.
The CNN anchor was accused of being sexist for making those remarks about a female in her 50s. Don Lemon later apologised, tweeting, "The reference I made to a woman's prime this morning was inartful and irrelevant, as colleagues and loved ones have pointed out, and I regret it. A woman's age doesn't define her either personally or professionally. I have countless women in my life who prove that every day." But according to Radar Online, Don Lemon's colleagues think the host has an ego. The source told the publication he has a colossal ego, and he's the kind of person who goes around saying he's not going to take the fall for his show flopping. It's not his fault, and the network's tanking, and they shouldn't have pushed him out of his primetime slot. The ratings are way down. The new boss is implementing tough new rules.
So this was another thing that sure is funny. This is another thing that happened too. Remember, he was in a primetime slot and then he was removed from that slot and put into the morning show. And for those of you who, if you've never worked in like TV or broadcasting or anything like that, technically that's a demotion. And I know he said, no, I'm not being demoted, but in the TV world, in the broadcasting news world, that is considered a demotion. Everyone knows that evening primetime slot, speaking of prime, that evening primetime slot gets more views, the most ratings, right? So if you're removed from that and they put you on the morning show and you didn't ask for that, that means technically you are demoted in a broadcast news sense because you are now going to the show that gets less views. That's just the reality of the situation. So there's that. So I'm pretty sure there's some angry, attitudes about that. But then also, yes, the ratings are down. We have been discussing this over on RBN as well. The ratings are down on CNN. The ratings are down on MSNBC. The ratings are down ever since Trump lost, the ratings have continued to decrease.
And no one is happy. All these people were pampered with perks and pats on the back until now, and all of a sudden Don, Wolf Blitzer and others are at a point of yikes, we're in trouble. Another source also told Fox News Digital that CNN colleagues had no idea what he was even talking about when he made those remarks about Nikki Haley. The CNN insider said, everyone's annoyed. People are definitely upset about it. I was trying to figure out what the hell he was even talking about. None of it made sense. It was a stupid thing to say. The New York Post had reported that Don Lemon's co-host Bobby Harlow actually stormed off set after the remarks were made, with a source telling the Post it was a well-timed bathroom break. These two are reported to have been smouldering for months. The source told the Post, which was seen in that exchange as she questioned Don Lemon on what his prime comments meant.
Imagine if this actually happened with a Fox News host. Imagine if it was a Fox News host that made that comment. CNN and MSNBC would eat this up, right?
After headlines continued days after, Don Lemon was absent from the show, CNN this morning, but so far he hasn't been formally suspended or let go. His boss, CEO Chris Licht, reportedly told staffers that the comments he made on air were upsetting, unacceptable, and unfair to his co-hosts, and ultimately a huge distraction to the great work of this organisation. Further drama continued today after it was revealed even embattled Long Island Congressman George Santos cancelled an interview set to take place with Don Lemon. A spokesperson
Listen, if George Santos canceled on you, come on now. The guy who lied about his whole identity and personality, if this guy canceled on you, what does that say? Right? Come on, guys.
for the New York Republican told the Daily Mail, "We heard the comments and it was in very poor taste, and we did not wish to do a sit down with someone who could speak ill of women in that regard. It shouldn't matter if it's a Republican or Democratic woman running for public office, but we're not going to sit down with someone who would say such horrible things. I don't think he should be rewarded for bad behavior."
Okay, so that's the clip I wanted to show you from Sky News. And then I also want to show you this clip from Fox News. I just want you to see how this one obviously is going to be more dramatic. As you could imagine. Here we go.
All right, so embattled CNN host Don Lemon is facing backlash from both sides after saying presidential candidate Nikki Haley is, quote, past her prime at 51 years old. Liberal women's advocacy group Ultraviolet ripping into the anchor saying, quote, from athletes to politicians and even his co-anchors, Lemon has used his power and platform to consistently undermine and demean powerful women. CNN should immediately suspend Lemon from any future political coverage indefinitely.
So notice how Fox News is framing this. They're saying that this has been an ongoing issue when it comes to Don Lemon about the way that he treats women. You see the difference between this is why I like to show you both, like, two different sides sometimes if I can. Like, notice how Sky News just kind of just reported the news. And notice how Fox News is now saying, whoa, this has been an ongoing issue. Let's go on.
Former South Carolina congressman and host of Sunday Night in America, Trey Gowdy, joins us now. Trey, great to see you this morning. What do you make of this situation with Don Lemon?
Well, I actually think you're a little bit past your prime. Is there any way I could speak to Rachel this morning, or do I have to talk to you? I'll tell you what I think.
Something like that would happen. What is a prime? What is a prime? When is it? Okay.
Ketanji Brown Jackson is older than Nikki Haley. He didn't say a word about her. Kamala Harris is older than Nikki Haley. It is one of the most profoundly stupid things that I have ever heard anyone say.
Yeah, I agree. It was stupid. It was ridiculous. And he brought up some pretty good examples there with Kamala Harris as well. But let's not be fooled by this, because the thing is, if it were the other way around, and if it was a Fox host who made that statement, it would be CNN doing this coverage right now. And Fox News will be back in their host. This is the whole thing about the red blue team game.
Gender bias, it's political bias. It's also stupid. The saving grace, Will, is that he said it on CNN's morning show, which means nobody heard it.
But it has been sort of the shot heard around the world since that time.
Oh, yeah, we definitely heard it. We definitely heard it. They may not have seen it on that show, but it definitely has made its way through the Twitterverse. That is for sure.
Trey, and you make a great point of the selective. I think that's also in reference. I think that should also be applied to the outrage about the comment as well. There was, this has never been brought up in other circumstances when, say, the political party was swapped. He didn't make this statement, as you pointed out. For any number of liberal women have held very high positions, not just Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Yeah, here's the good news. Nikki Haley has seen it and heard it all before. I mean, she ran against 3 guys to be the governor of South Carolina. She is not going to be intimidated. I think it's just it is biased, but in every form it can manifest itself. It's also just, Will, so patently stupid. You have to be 35 to run for the presidency.
See what I was saying, you guys? That's why that comment that he made, like, that didn't make any sense, especially when you look at politics, things from a political scale. You can't even run for president until you're 35. That's why it didn't make any sense to me. Do you guys think that this is actually a comment like this will actually make Nikki Haley look better? Let me know in the chat. Yes or no. Type yes if you think this will make Nikki Haley look better. Type no if you think it will not.
So if you're a woman and you age out of your prime at age 40, does that mean you just run for one term? I mean, Don Lemon is older than Nikki Haley. What does that say about him?
Wait a minute. Don Lemon is older than Nikki Haley? I missed that part before. I'm going to have to look that up. Colin said no. Jonathan said yes. Mastermind said no. I didn't realize Don Lemon is older than Nikki Haley. This is interesting. Oh, it's getting juicy here.
It's really, really great point. Let's touch on this, Trey. You got a new book out, Start, Stay, or Leave. It's out now. It's a really fascinating book about your life, but it is not just about your life. It's really about the way you went about making decisions in your life.
We don't need to hear any more from Trey. But yeah, I wanted you to see the way it's discussed on both of those channels, because I thought that was pretty interesting. But yeah, I do have to say that there's hypocrisy there. There really is, because the thing is, that statement wasn't made about Kamala Harris. That statement wasn't made about Hillary Clinton, because those are people that are part of the Democratic Party. There are several things to criticize Nikki Haley about. You can criticize her for being a warmonger. You can criticize her for being a neocon. You can criticize her for lying about racism, including the fact that when she ran for governor of South Carolina, and I lived in South Carolina at that time, so I do remember this very well, she was called a raghead by one of her own party members. I showed that on the show. The gentleman that said, we already have a raghead in the White House, we don't need one in the State House. That was her party. That was her party. There's so many other things you can call out Nikki Haley for. But to stoop that low and to say someone's not in their prime, that was weak. That was weak. Notori said, and if I was her, I would milk this, and I know she's going to milk it. LOL. Yeah, she probably should. Matt said that ish. Don said, I'd be careful with profanity on here, you guys. Don said was not really cool. Someone said his head's so big he has to go outside to think. Yeah. I'll take that comment on Don Lemon has always been a pompous twin. Oh my God. Oh man, the past 2 years have not been great for CNN.